Alright, that should be good. So for this video, I'm gonna try to cover fuzzy throwing. I have a small little script written up on the side with some bullet points to try to help me keep this under a certain time limit so it's not super long, and also to try to help keep me on track. So I might pause every now and then to look over and make sure I'm not missing anything. Just that's why I go quiet for a moment. Probably that. So for the first things first, who do I think should be trying to do fuzzy throws on defense? I think you should probably only feel like trying to go for fuzzy throw on defense if you've already reached the point in the game where you understand how your character works and to some degree understand the other characters in the game, right? Like if you are no longer confused by the special moves in the game or anything like that, you're probably comfortable enough that you could try to go for this if you want to. It is still pretty hard to do overall, to do successfully, but the more you do it, the easier it'll get. But if you're a more newer player, don't worry about this kind of thing, I'd say. As far as when to use it, you want to use fuzzy throws, obviously, on tick throw setups, right? You react to the tick throw as it's happening, and you put your 4H, right? And when you do it right, you'll get attacked. Like that. One of the other very important things for when fuzzy throw is really strong is if your opponent tries to frame trap you with mids, like this. For a really specific reason. Because if you do it correctly, it'll look like that, right? When your opponent decides to frame trap with the mid, if you fuzzy throw correctly, it's exactly what it sounds like. Your input doesn't come out, right? You're fuzzying it, so it only comes out when they leave an opportunity for it to happen. It'll either look like this, right, where you're stand blocking that attempt, or if they mess up badly enough and they're in range, right, which is like another thing you want to pay attention to, you can turn it into just a throw of your own, right? So you pretty much want to use it in those situations. It's also nice to go for when you don't feel comfortable fuzzy jumping out of someone's throw OS. Some characters in the game have really messed up throw OSs that can potentially catch you fuzzy jumping out of them, right? Like Johnny and Alpha. So it might be worth just going for a fuzzy throw instead against those characters. What else is there? What are some of the advantages to this? So the biggest advantage, I would say, is that you stay safe in this situation for the most part. If your opponent is frame trapping you with these mids and they're not really doing it perfectly, right? They're still in your strike throw range. You could pretty much look like you're never gonna get punished, right? You can look like you're only getting rewarded off of these situations because every time they try to throw you, you're teching, and every time they try to frame trap you, you're stand blocking their mid, right? It's also really nice because a lot of people aren't used to the fact that guilty gear throws are so quick. So in their head, they usually picture throws as being something that you can sort of frame trap with just a button normally. And they might not notice why you're getting so many throw techs whenever they go for them, right? So it's a really strong tactic to use against less experienced players that aren't as familiar with how this kind of thing can work. But I figure this is best if I show some examples. So I should have a couple examples of first fuzzy throws working, right? So you can see the fuzzy throw happening in practice. I think it's like around here. Yeah. Right? Is it on this setup? Yeah. So what you're pretty much looking for as the defender, it's really simple, but hard to do in practice. You just need to keep training yourself over time to look for it. But it's as simple as just your opponent is moving forward really fast, so it's very obvious that they're gonna end up next to you in your throw range, and you're not in block stun, right? So you're kind of looking for the situation, and once they're in your throw range, as late as possible, you input 4H, right? And that's just what it looks like when you're successful. It just looks like a normal throw tech. But what you're usually looking for in order to get this to work is you want to look for that sort of like forward movement like that. That's sort of your acknowledgement that, oh, this is setting up a potential fuzzy throw for me, right? I can look for fuzzy throw off of that. Same with that the same clip or different clip? I think it's a different one. It's this clip. And then this is sort of, this is what can happen in a perfect situation, right? This is what I was saying. If your opponent either messes up their tick throw attempt or messes up if they're frame trapping with the mid and they're too close to you, or just in general, I guess it could be with any non-throw in-bull move. If they mess up the frame trap and you're 4Hing, it can be as nice as this, right? Like this is best case situation. Is recognizing when your opponent is probably gonna run some kind of throw or strike mix and is delaying as much as possible. And if you're lucky enough, they might mess up and you'll actually just throw them for it, throw them out of their offense, right? So you can see why this is really, really valuable. And I'll usually like less committal, I'd say in general, than pressing a button on strike throw mixes, right? Because the button is much easier for your opponent to blow up. It's usually what they're looking for. And it sort of leads into, if it's so strong, how do you fight it, right? So if it's this strong, what should you try to do to beat fuzzy throw, right? And the solution's actually really easy, and it has to do with the fact that your opponent is just reacting to forward movement from you, right? As you start to sort of move into their throw range, they're just looking for this, right? Because the throws are so fast, you have to do it on anticipation, which means if you want to blow it up, usually you can just mix in a low. It's as simple as that, really. You just know that your opponent is looking for it, and so off of your throw baits, you start going low to blow up those inputs, right? Because they have to input back and heavy for the throw, right? So when you catch them stand blocking for that one moment like that, you can blow them up for it, right? And it's honestly pretty hard to get around that. That is pretty much just what you do, right? That's sort of the interaction. If you're gonna throw me and I go for fuzzy throw, I could tech it. But if you go low and I go fuzzy throw, then you'll get me, right? And if you want to know when your opponent is most likely trying to fuzzy throw you, a really good tell is if they're stand blocking in these situations, right? So if you do a 2P and you stagger it like that, and they stand block for a moment like that, it's a pretty clear sign that they're probably looking for fuzzy throws. And you can start weaving in those lows to call them out for it. And if you want to see what that looks like, we can look at one or two examples of that too. Right, so me, the defender, put in block stun. Kind of ambiguous, right? If I'm still in block stun or not. So I just commit early to the 4H. Bears goes low and he blows me up, right? Same situation again, but a little different. Right. Plus frames, kind of ambiguous. You see me block a little bit. I blocked the first hit. I got caught 4Hing on the second hit. And that's because it's really, really hard to balance trying to do a fuzzy throw with not getting blown up by a low. Because again, the window is really small for those reactions on whether it's going to be a throw or whether it's going to be a low, right? Or a strike in general. Because you don't have much time, and usually you're reacting to situations preemptively, right? Like, when this happens, I'm mostly just reacting to the fact that you did a 2P, and there's now this small gap, right? You didn't continue your galling immediately, so now I'm going to input my fuzzy throw, right? Because that's what you're looking for, and because that's such a small window, you'll get blown up a lot when people go low. And when people start going low, then you just look for other alternatives, right? But in general, fuzzy throws are really strong as sort of a level 1 option because they're so safe to do most of the time. And because people's reward, especially off of a spaced low, is usually not the best. So you can usually represent them as long as you feel confident that you'll get the window on the tech. And sometimes you miss them. I miss them all the time. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully that gives you an idea of when to use it, how to blow it up, etc. And you guys can put it in your gameplay, try to have some better defense, and see how that works out. But looks like this was on the shorter end. That's pretty much it. You guys have a good day or whatever.